Before I begin, I'd like to give a quick shout out to Angelo's Pizzeria, who absolutely makes the best cheesesteaks in Philly. Many viewers have questioned why Chin Gigante, of all people, put so much trust in a guy like Pete Savino. The most rational answer would be human nature. In life, we all come across people we've met and taken an automatic liking to. I think most of us can say we've met and befriended such people. And in the same breath, Chin obviously took a liking to Savino. I actually knew someone who was friendly with Savino back in the ironworker days. And he told me he was a very likable guy, always had a big smile on his face. As a seasoned member of the mob, Chin also recognized that Savino was an earner. And why would that matter? Because any associate who earns can put money in your pocket. And Savino was considered a major earner and someone who rubbed shoulders with legitimate and illegitimate people. He was very friendly with a lot of wise guys. But as we know, he ultimately became an associate of the West Side. So in Chin's eyes, Savino was an earner and one around his Bogota. What put Savino in the good graces of the West Side was his idea for the window replacement scheme. And he had all the bases covered. With the mob's help, not only would they get the contracts for the windows, but they'd handle manufacturing and the installation as well. This well-thought-out score catapulted Savino from associate to a high-level associate. And we know this by who he was meeting with, specifically the West Side's administration. At one point, Chin allowed Savino to be put on record with him. So he now becomes Chin's associate and is looked at like the golden goose. Initially, Chin had a meeting with Joe Zito, a member of his crew. But after a few tests, like having Savino come to his social club at 2 a.m. just to see if he would show up, which he did, Chin's trust in him slowly increased. And he allowed Savino to have an open door policy where he was literally permitted to go see Chin anytime he needed to discuss something. Members of the West Side didn't have this privilege, and if they wanted to see Chin, they had to make an appointment. Yet here was Savino waltzing in whenever he pleased. And from what's known, he took full advantage of this and went to see Chin a lot. As time went by, Chin had no reason to doubt him and considered him a good associate, one who handed over very large envelopes. When the FBI finally jammed Savino up, he was basically cornered and had few choices: take the pinch or flip. The dilemma that he found himself in was that he once cooperated in the past, and he was concerned that if he refused to help the FBI, they'd somehow expose him and he'd get killed. FBI agents always try to get a guy to wear a wire, because what's better than someone's own voice to convict them? And on a personal note, the FBI asked me, but I refused. Which is why I laugh at clickbait thumbnails aimed at me, ones that mention the words "wore a wire." Total bullshit. Anyway, Savino had to have some big balls because he walked into Chin's club wired up. If they ever searched him and found a recorder, they probably would have chopped his head off. Those recordings that he did record were fruitless. Chin was too smart and savvy and would run water or put the TV or stereo up loud before he spoke in whispered tones directly into Savino's ear, too low of a voice to be picked up by a microphone. The FBI would have loved to get him on tape, but he was way too smart for them. The agents don't give a shit about a guy like Savino getting exposed and killed. I remember an Italian agent named Bernardo Curra telling me that he would put multiple recording devices on guys in case one recorder malfunctioned, and he found it funny, but it was just another confirmation how the FBI uses people at the expense of that person's life, which they really care nothing about. So if things went sideways for Savino and he was killed as a result, oh well. I just found it to be insane that he walked into Chin's club wearing a wire. Whispers and rumors began circulating in the street that Savino was an informant. However, Chin reportedly viewed many of these accusations through a much different lens. In the mob, major earners are envied and attract resentment, and Chin knew this. Savino had access to powerful unions, city contracts, and more crucially, his rabbi in the street was Chin. But even with that being the case, the more money he made, the more enemies he appeared to make. It's extremely common for guys to protect their big money associates. In this situation, the irony is the exact reason Chin trusted Savino, the money, was also the reason he ignored any warning signs. Essentially, Savino's greatest protection was profitability. With every dollar earned, Chin's trust in him increased. He viewed Savino's critics as people who were jealous and trying to tarnish Savino's reputation, but over and above that, people who wanted to take over the racket. Most mafia politics are driven by money disguised as concern. We know among the people who tried warning Chin about Savino was Vic and Gas, fellow bosses, giving the boss of another family a heads up. The first time they warned Chin, he ignored the warning, but they did come back and tried warning him again, at which point he sent for Savino, who was questioned with a gun to his head. Nonetheless, the answers he gave were sufficient enough for Chin to believe him. You have to give him credit. Savino was extremely good under pressure because he knew he was working for the FBI and still managed to sound believable and claim that he was innocent of what was being said about him. Rumors, by the way, that were absolutely true. We're talking about bosses of another family who warned Chin, and at the end of the day, he took Savino's word over theirs. Why? Well, we started out by saying he genuinely liked Savino. He tested him, and when he called for him, Savino showed up. There never was an issue with any money that he kicked up from the window scam. And when he ultimately questioned Savino with the gun pointed to his head, he obviously gave the right answers, causing Chin to take his side against fellow wise guys, and not just any wise guys, bosses no less. Savino witnessed the loyalty that Chin showed him, and he must have figured Savino would return it as a result. In Chin's eyes, Savino did everything right, even coming to him with the smallest of issues. So all of Savino's actions and his character spelled out loyalty for Chin, but he was wrong. He misjudged Savino. If you haven't liked this video yet, please take the time now and give it a like, as it helps with YouTube's algorithm. Anyone who'd like to show their appreciation for videos like this, or more importantly, help me to continue making them, you can donate with the Super Thanks icon down below, or through the PayPal Cash App links in the video's description. Let me quickly mention my blog, also called Sitdownnews, especially for those of you who still enjoy reading. The site can be found at sitdownnews.com and is a paid subscription. After spending decades avoiding prison, evading law enforcement, outsmarting the FBI, manipulating enemies, he had come to realize his greatest threat wasn't a rival boss or a federal prosecutor. It was the very person many had warned him about, warnings that he refused to listen to. In the end, the millions that Savino handed in that brought him influence and trust brought him something else entirely: time. And by the time Chin's worst nightmare took shape, it was far too late. The government had years of information provided by Savino, leaving Chin to live with the embarrassment that Savino caused him.